Hey everyone, welcome back to a brand new Adventures in the Ink. I'm Scott, and joining me are my fellow Illumineers, Matt and Mike. How you guys doing tonight?
Doing good. How about you?
Yeah, doing great.
Doing good now that the weather has calmed down for us around here, so I'm happy for that. Oh, let's dive into tonight's topic, and we are going to turn to the dark side of TCGs and let our little villainous side come out. We're going to talk about the different ways people have been known to cheat at TCGs and how cheating affects the game, what you can do to stop cheating from happening in your games. Oh, Mike, I'm going to turn it off to you first. What brought this topic up for this week?
Well, so in a recent high-profile event known as the Disney Lorcana Challenge Las Vegas, there was a player who was disqualified for suspected cheating, and this player had received multiple warnings. So it wasn't just, oh, we thought you cheated one time, and it, like any good gossip, it spread like wildfire, and people were, name dropping and doing all this other stuff. And we're not here to do that, but we just want to talk about the aspect of like why is there cheating and what kind of why it's important to pay attention to.
Yeah. And what also I think made it a bigger issue was that I forget what other challenge it was, but he was at another challenge where he got 2 warnings and then proceeded to praise very high at the end.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't come in first, but he played pretty high, and that would make people very angry with that. They felt like he was also cheating at previous challenges.
Yeah. There's the common saying in life that people think it's not always true, but it's once a cheater, always a cheater. And so then if that's true, then it could just be that he got caught now and didn't get caught before. So it does raise some integrity issues as far as like the tournament and the previous tournaments and invites to continentals. In the U.S., this is what, the 5th out of 6 challenge event that has happened, and this is the first time that I think we've had or at least glaringly obvious disqualification for cheating that has been brought to people's attention.
As far as I'm aware, it's the only disqualification in day 2.
Yeah. Well, I don't think this happened. I think this person was disqualified on Saturday, so the first day of
no,
gameplay.
He made day 2 and he would disqualify day 2.
Okay. That's not what I heard, but either way, I mean, this person.
We can.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah.
Either way, this person is a highly competitive person who was doing well, who got disqualified, and in previous challenges had also done very well. And so it brings the question of like, if you can do well enough on your own, why cheat? But have in any competition, any sport, just that little percent extra to put you over the edge could totally make or break you winning the game and thus moving on to the next round. Yeah, I don't know. Scott, did you hear anything about this, or was this the first time that you heard us bring it up?
I just heard it happened and what happened, but I haven't really gone into details with it. I was aware that it happened, but that's pretty much it.
Yeah. I believe on. I'll put it in the show notes if I'm wrong, but on the Illumineers podcast, they brought on the winner of this Las Vegas DLC, Zan Syed, and this player was actually played against Zan. I think got a match loss, or at least a round loss against him because of his accidental cheating. and then later got disqualified because of the investigation into him. So he talks about it there. So that's why I was like, I thought it happened in day one, but maybe it didn't happen until day two.
Well, he might have played him in day one, but I'm pretty sure the guy got to qualify day two.
Okay. So either way, like, yeah, this person was definitely someone who was doing well and performing well and was still cheating. So
I'm trying to look it up, but I can't find
yeah, I guess
the Reddit post.
yeah, I'll go
that-
into what I, from what I remember, but again, I'm not a source. I did not go to DLC Las Vegas, so
Yeah,
uh,
and like we're not gonna get super in on the issue
yeah,
because I don't want the whole episode to be about this one topic, but more of
yeah,
just the general and cheating in general.
yeah, sure. I mean, so I guess if you talk about ways that people can cheat, right? So the easiest way that somebody could cheat would be to, I guess not easiest way, but obvious ways that we've heard about before, people stacking their decks. So shuffling in a way where they know where the cards are going to be. So you could have marked sleeves, or you could flip certain cards upside down, etc. So you can tell or play to your outs, and in a way that you know where your cards are going to be. This particular player was accused of cheating by drawing too many cards, which I will call on my brother. When I was playing Uno when I was a kid, he totally did the opposite. In Uno, you want to get down to 0 cards, and I was none the wiser. But every time I played, I would lose, and I never counted how many cards he had in hand because he would consistently put down 2 cards at once, which obviously is against the rules. But if you're not asking your opponent how many cards in hand, I
Yeah,
mean, you're not going to keep track of that.
but also like sometimes it happens. Sometimes you're not paying attention. Sometimes you're just like you miss count. So like I get like these tournaments you're doing like 9 games. Well, we have 9 rounds. You woke up early. You prep an unfamiliar play. Like sometimes your brain gets fried and you make the mistake.
Yeah,
But like when you're constantly making the same mistake, that's when. And also like if you catch yourself, they'll be like, "Oh, hey, I made a mistake. How would you like to handle it?" Um,
yeah, yeah. In
an-
the in this incident, I like, or at least the retelling of it that I heard is that he was called out by his opponent, saying like, "Wait a second, you did something, and now you have too many cards in hand." And he just said, "Oh, whoops! I got a warning earlier. My cards are too sticky." And he tried to, I think, if I remember correctly, but again, you can verify this by listening to the other podcast. They just said that he conceded that game, like because he didn't want the judge to come over, and
that
that was
seems
another shady sign of like, oh,
yeah.
okay, hold on,
Also, if you get a warning that your cards are too sticky, the vendor there sell trees.
yeah,
Go buy some trees.
yeah.
Oh.
So anyway, there's yeah,
And
you know,
also, like, especially if you're not cheating, you don't want your tree to be sticky because that potentially could hurt you. Not that the
mhm,
fact that people think you're cheating, but the fact that your cards are going to get clumped together and you're not going to tuple. So there's a good chance, like, all your cards are at the bottom or all the same types are together. Like,
yeah,
also, we said it before, always bring extra tree to a tournament.
yeah. I mean, other ways you could cheat too is if you notice that your opponent isn't um, keeping track of lore that accurately. Like if they just have a spin down for you or something else, you could nudge yours up or do whatever, and then it becomes a he said she said kind of thing.
Yep.
And that's why it's always important to have a ledger. You can at least write down every time, and ask your opponent beforehand if they're not announcing it. Be like, anytime you quest, anytime you gain lore, can you state how much lore you're at? That way you can write
Yeah.
it down.
And that's another thing too that I have seen people get called out on at tournament. They're not saying what they're doing. They're playing up rapidly. So it's always best to clearly state what you're doing.
Mhm.
Another thing you can do. Another way I've seen people cheat in various other games, and like a lot of it did not just Lorcana Pacific.
Yeah,
Um, but like one thing too is just de-bowling other players with the rules that are wrong in your favor. Just
not
like, oh no, it interacted way. I'm like blah blah blah, and then and if you say you're enough competent enough for it, you can kind of make the other person uncomfortable and they just don't want to deal with it. So
Yeah. Yep. Yes, kind of intimidation.
yeah,
And even if you are right about the rules, like that's still like kind of scummy. Like so,
yeah,
you're moving from the area of like that's clearly cheating to I'm doing things to try to trap my opponent. You know, and
yeah.
in other games they call it angle shooting. It's basically like you're trying to win the game by playing outside the game rules, and you're trying to catch your opponent in a bunch of gotchas. Um,
But like, they're like one of the thing is like if you know that your opponent is missing a May trigger that would benefit them. Not a May trigger, a mud trigger that would benefit them. Like if it's a May trigger that they met, that's on them.
yeah,
But if it's a mud ability and you see it and you don't say anything, that's also in a way a form of cheating. Like I think like
Actually, that's actually in the rules that you can't do that.
yeah,
yeah. I
So
mean,
that actually is cheating in
both
Lorcana.
both
yeah,
players would get a a warning,
A
right?
verbal. Yep.
yeah. Because I remember one of the events had um no, that I think that happened at the that championship we did put into the Inkland at the Rain Factory because someone had beat Tragic Hero out
Uh,
and he missed some of his draw triggered.
and he tried to go back and get it.
Well, it got he realized it after a while and like no one mentioned it,
Uh,
so both players got a warning for that. But yeah, it's a particularly like that call like that did a benefit to the player, but it's not a May ability. It
yeah.
happened.
If you guys were to answer the question or to complete the sentence, cheating happens in competitive games because
Oh, greed, vanity, of two like people want to win, and winning makes them feel good, and they must feel good because this is America, damn it. Um,
I mean, to
I
be
think
fair, cheating happens in other countries also, but
yeah, but
uh,
my sentiment is there.
a lot of it is, I think it's like Matt was saying, it's the not the fact that they want to win, but they would want to show off.
Yeah,
They want to show off their skills. They want to show off how good they are. They just want to say, "Look at me, I'm the best."
mhm.
yeah. Like mommy didn't love me enough. Like, do you love me now, mom?
So if we were gonna deep dive into psychology, would you say that uh, people cheat in card games and other things that have non? I mean, there are high stakes in this, but it's not um, maybe as high stakes as like cheating in education or something where you have a degree. Like if you're cheating in medical school, that's like a really not great thing, right? If you become a doctor or something and you don't actually know what you're doing.
I know
Um,
way more people that cheat in school than people that cheat in games. People respect games more than education.
really, okay. So you think it's the opposite that people in less. I don't know. I mean, I feel like in school, especially college, it can be seen as high stakes because you're paying so much for the individual class or
Yeah,
education that you have. But
yeah. There's a lot higher take on it, and people have a lot more to root. Like with competitive games, like sometimes people do have stuff to root. Like when you when you get to that the cup matches where hey, if I root this match, I'm out of the tournament. Or like you have that those matches that if I win this match, I'm in day 2 or I get the next prize bracket. Because
mhm.
when you're playing for even with a bit of $1,000 card, you have that that's still that's a good prize. Like the difference between because a lot of times it does come down to one match, and so that's a lot of pressure, and that's why.
I wonder if people don't cheat as much in card games as or like games in general as they do like in education because it's more widely available or easier to cheat. Like there are
It also
services that you can pay to like have someone write your paper or do whatever else. Where it's like in
it
a
also
card game,
yeah
you have to like.
more
It's also what?
it's also more totally acceptable because if you're cheating in school, most of the time you're just hurting yourself.
Yeah,
You're not actually hurting other people. Why in a card game actively hurting your opponent.
Yeah, I mean, you could argue the long game in that and say, like, no, you're actually hurting society by, creating an artificial pressure on other people to do well because you're doing well, but you're only doing well because you're cheating.
Oh
Whatever.
my god, we can go on that topic for a while. There's a lot of totalitarian pressure that all the making. Like, there's a reason why Japan have such high suicide rates.
Oh man. Yeah. All right. So next week in Adventures in the Ink, we're going to bring on a psychologist.
Do you know any?
I do. The person I ran a WoW guild with is a guitarist. Well, the social worker with a guitarist degree.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I mean, I think part of it is, if you're comparing school versus this, I mean, that's the most obvious comparison that I can make is that people will cheat in if you cheat in a card game or a new game or whatever else, like any kind of board game, it's like there's no like legal repercussions, but I don't know, like in education or other things, I mean, you can get kicked out of university, you can lose a lot of money.
Yeah, but you could also be on the same situation if you fail the test you're cheating on. But yeah, but people do it. Like I said, though, I feel like definitely. Also, I think that's like numbered because like more people go to school than play these games.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay.
So it's a bigger pool.
Anyway, moving away from school. I don't know. I understand the pressure, but part of me is like, I guess maybe you can wipe away your guilt of cheating with the hundreds of dollars or thousands of dollars that you win. It's like, oh, sorry, I feel so bad that I cheated. But
And again, it comes down to like the winning is what matters more to them. They care more about the actual fact of winning than how they win. And that
yeah,
and like so like this is like a mold game because the end justify the means to some people. And
sure.
like I know part of the reason I think you're having a hard time understanding is because Mike, you are one of the nicest people ever.
I mean, I have my
And
flaws, but yes, thank you. I appreciate it. No, I don't know. I get it. I don't know. Part of me is like, okay, so if people are going to cheat because if they can get away with it, they will. Could Ravensburger do something to incentivize people to cheat less? Like maybe instead of having such a steep drop. So for me, at DLC Toronto in round 8, like the person I played against who owed me, um, and then could intentionally draw into the final. So it's like that was like the make or break round, and going from that pricing, you go to having like I don't know, basically it's a $700 to $1,000 jump in pricing. And so if
yeah,
there was a better like tiered system where it was a little more gradual and not just like, oh, here's another $1,000 if you win one game.
well, really, what the best thing they can do is it really the band player. You have to make the risk not worth the reward. Like, if the person is good enough that they can go to the challenges and on average score like this much and on prizes on their own without cheating, then it's not worth them to get banned from all events for like X amount of time, or like sometimes
Yeah.
and like Magic will hand out bans for like 13 years amount, and sometimes they'll hand out lifetime ban. Magic had a candle for a while where a player made it into day 2 of an event. Well, second part of an event.
hmm
Um that had a ban for life king.
Wait, they're banned for life
Yeah,
before?
yeah, they were banned.
Oh.
They were banned for life before. It was a Magic online tournament. So they registered under a different name. They played online. They did well enough online. They got invited to the main tournament.
hmm
Oh, oh, and then that when it came out that they were the player that had been banned.
Yeah.
But that's the best thing Ravenberg can really do to prevent cheating. Is that to have more repercussions for cheating, and that also that better trained judges and that have judges more observant. That was one thing that came up earlier. As a lot of people felt like the judges were making bad calls at these events, or the judges were too lenient on top. But like this is also the first year,
Hmm.
and the judges, are still running the game like everyone else. So
Yeah.
I think that's gonna get better with time.
I think the hard part too is ultimately it's hard to prove intent.
Yeah.
So you could have someone who's just like, look, I was a nervous wreck. I made plenty of misplays in a row, and yes, it was a repeat offense, but like, it was just honest
Well,
mistake.
and that's the thing too. It that like the whole fool me one, same on you, fool me twice, same on me. Like so, like you give them the warning. That's why we have the warning system. And I think like having like I had that incident with my Chicago challenges. Well, I accidentally doubled my dick cards from the previous game the wrong direction, and I didn't notice it right away.
Hmm.
But my opponent noticed it. The judges, understandable, like, hey, that's a mistake. They called the query not intentionally baiting, or like he just have all random cards.
Yeah.
But immediately after that, and for the rest of the event, I paid extra attention. I was looking at my deck between every match. I was making sure all cards were going the same direction.
Except
So
for
like,
your grab your sword, right? No, just kidding.
no, no, that was in
Yeah,
my
yeah,
dream. Uh, but like, yeah, that's what. But like, when you get the warning, you pay attention to the warnings,
yeah.
and the fact that like, what we were saying earlier, the fact that the person was like, oh, I got a warning for this earlier, like, then change your behavior,
Right.
like these are hyper, like these tournaments are serious matter, like these big challenges, there's a lot of pressure, and like you kind of like hyper focusing on stuff, and so like you all know that, so like you all paying attention to this stuff, so
Yeah.
like yeah,
So
like making
Scott,
a mistake, yeah, making a mistake once is fine, but when you're making the same mistake over and over again, it starts getting like, are you even trying?
sure. It's like, okay, even if it was an accident this many times, you deserve
Yeah,
some sort of repercussion. Okay.
yeah.
So Scott, since you are you've judged Lorcana events before, but have you judged other games on any kind of regular basis?
I have judged other TCGs um before, and I do a lot of judging on when it comes to like board games in general.
Okay. So have you run into issues with people like skirting the rules or like claiming ignorance or doing things repeated times after a warning?
Not really. Um, Usually I've seen people try to, but once they get the official warning, it dies down usually. I've never seen someone purposely go past that warning.
Hmm.
Um, like I've seen people try to get away with things that they shouldn't have when I haven't been a judge. But in my capacity as a judge, usually once the warning is given, the behavior stops.
Hmm.
Yeah, we had an incident when the top first opened. We had a 12-year-old. Oh my god, it's been so long. I think the kid is like 18 now. Um, but like we had issue with this kid who came to Magic event, and he he was trying to play up. Oh, I'm new. I'm just making mistake. Trying to play his A card to advantage, but like we knew from him playing other games and stuff. Like he's small enough to know what he's doing, and so we had to have a talk with him and be like, "Hey, you keep this up. We're not gonna let you do these events anymore." And that stopped him.
I mean, that's a.
Because
Oh, I was just gonna say that's the bigger thing. It's like I don't know when they're that young. It's like okay, when do we pull the parents aside and be like, your child's slowly turning into a sociopath?
Oh, we yeah, we knew his mom because his mom worked with one of my business partners,
Okay.
which is why the mom was bringing them to the store. Um, so and then we also had that incident with not cheating, but we had like a 11-year-old steal a pop from us like a
Ooh.
few weeks ago, and we immediately went to the parents,
Yeah.
and the parents were not nice. The parents very much punished him.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, but like we're saying, like that a lot of times when you sit down and you talk to the player, it's like if they keep doing it, they are intentionally doing it. If they change it, if they get to warning and they change their way, you know that like okay, it was an accident before, everything's gonna be fine now.
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean,
I
oh, I was just gonna say. So, going back to the incident that sparked this, the reason why we're talking about this, it sounds like this player was at least warned once, maybe twice. So,
He would so from what I understand, you have to receive pre-warnings at a challenge event to get DQ'd because it someone else was saying that at a previous challenge event he got 2 warnings and was not removed from the event.
and they don't carry over from challenge to challenge. Like, if he
Nope.
shows up, is it like a blank slate?
Yep.
Yeah. And I think that's one thing that Lorcana could do to lessen the cheating is have a record that carries over, as especially at the big events. Um,
Yeah, because those challenges you have to show an ID.
yeah, you have to show the ID. So, but just I know other TCGs that keep a database of every player, every infraction they've ever gotten, at what location they got it at,
Oh wow.
and it can like when they start to see those patterns, and that's when they start developing these banned player lists.
And like
Mm-hmm.
Lorcana can easily do this through Melee because every single event, even the local store ones, have to be through Melee.
Yeah, but someone could create a second melee account, right? I think they're actually showing your picture ID is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, but it's an avenue that could be a deterrent.
Well, Melee can also be used to track it, but also yeah, you also can do your ID.
Yeah.
But yeah, things that carry over, and I equivalent this to the sports world, where there are sports that you get penalized in one game, it carries over from game to game. And if you get too many infractions, you then get suspended for the next game. And so keeping a record of that and where it like everything matters, it could lead to less cheating because people are like, oh, this is going to affect me in the long run, even if it's something small.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Go ahead,
because
Matt.
but like the way too, like oh hey, you caught cheating at a couple of championship events at local store. Now all of a sudden you can't do the challenge event.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel like cheating at the championship or the set championship events is likely more rampant than at the challenge events, or about the same, or less?
So I think I want it's hard to say. So I definitely think the challenges have a lot more on the line. So I think cheating probably more likely to happen there.
There's more pressure, yeah.
Yep. But I think people probably feel like it'd be easier to get away with cheating at the set championship.
There's less of a punishment too, right?
Yeah,
I mean, less reward, less punishment.
yeah. So like I've seen people actually cheat at like local game stores and stuff and go to multiple stores in the area.
And
It was
especially if they get away with it at one store, they're most likely to try to get away with it at other stores too.
yeah. And also like Patrick, like, the area we live in, and there is like what 5, 6 stores all within like a 30-minute radius.
Yeah,
That
easily.
yeah. So
Yeah.
like if you get banned at one gaming store, you can then go play at another one.
Sure.
But like that was something I heard about earlier too. Oh, earlier this year was like one person. I forget. It might have been Pokemon. One person was. Or maybe that. Well, basically, was one person was playing a game and taking a lot of time to make decisions, and then someone was standing outside the door with binoculars, looking at the opponent's hand.
Yeah. So yeah, to be fair, cheating is not. It's not just the trading card games. It's not anything new. Like cheating scandals, you can look up cheating scandals
Yeah.
in chess. They're very like. There's more recent ones that are more infamous. Matt's laughing because of that one, but there are other ones too where there were like observed matches where the person's like coach would be in the room too, and they would stand on specific areas to signal, very broad strategies to the player, like you're in the advantage or you're disadvantaged or whatever, like or try to like look for this kind of a thing.
Also, there was a big scandal last year with a fitting competition that the guy was caught putting weight.
Oh yeah,
And that was a big deal because they was worth a lot of money. And also, they won several other events very recently. So it also brought the integrity of all those other events in question too.
yeah. So, do we have a bigger societal problem here? This is.
I mean, yeah, but we're not gonna we could go in. There's a
We're gonna
lot.
save that. We're gonna save that for when the psychologist comes on the show.
Yeah, and we need the
Yep.
anthropologist too, and the.
We're gonna see how November turned out.
Jeez. Oh man. Yeah, I don't know. To me, ultimately, it's kind of frustrating, especially when it's something like this. Um, I just wish that people like valued their integrity more than. I mean, even like tens of thousands of dollars is nice, but I don't know. Like ultimately, like, do you want to for $10,000? Do you want to be known as a liar and a cheat? Globally. I don't.
Yeah. Yeah, I like, it did not worth it. Like, but some people are just better people than others, and some people that don't care about other people, and it's sad. But like, I definitely think though cheaters are definitely in the minority.
Yeah,
I
yeah, that's something to bring up. I think that's really important you brought it up, Matt. After events like this, people can tend to be hyper vigilant and won't trust
Mhm.
anyone, and I think that's probably the worst part about having a cheater or a cheating scandal in a community, if it's like a board game or whatever else, is just the fact that if you don't know the person, you start to not trust them, and you just assume that they're trying to get one up on you. And it's sad because Lorcana, the community has been great so far. All the people that I've met, the people I played in Toronto, it was just a lot of fun. Got to see people, content creators that I listen to, and it'd be really sad if like the community broke down because suddenly everyone that you play against is just like, oh, I'm not going to be friendly with you because I'm going to assume that you're cheating.
Um, that that brings up a question that I actually was thinking about. It now it's a nice segue. So you mentioned how the Lorcana community, we all talk to each other within the various, like you guys play at multiple stores. You guys talk to people at other stores. So the question is, and this is probably going to be more for you, Matt, being a store owner, is how much communication is there exactly between different stores when stuff like this happens?
not
Or is
not
it just word of mouth?
it did boil out. It not a lot of communicating because for one thing, it too is because we live in a country where it's very easy to sue each other. And Trander is a very easy thing um sue someone for. A lot of stores don't. The bakery they'll ban someone at the store, and maybe like like one of the stores I go and play with, I talk to the owner a lot. Like he might give me a heads up, like, hey, we had the player get banned for this, but like there's like I said, out of the tick toads in the area, like I only like talk to one owner on a regular basis, and so like the other toads aren't gonna really reach out to me because we don't have a rapport.
Yeah, I
Now,
think
would that be a deterrent if there was a better lines of communication,
Not
or would
necessarily.
that make it worse?
Not necessarily, because you have that again. You have that issue where, like, if say I ban a player, I tell one of the other local toads, I tell all the local toads, "Hey, he's a cheater. We banned him from our toads," and then they go and ban him. He could, and depending on like with the cheating, like we might have proof, we might not have proof. It might be a he said, and then but then he can then go and then turn around and potentially to the door because, hey, the because they said the thing that aren't true, quote unquote. They got me banned from other doors, and that affecting me on some level.
mhm.
I forget some of the legal jargon, but like, yeah, it kind of hard. So that's having it'd be easier for Lorcana to be like, hey, we have documented it, we have this, and we so that having a community, well, so like I saying, I think better communicating between local thought is going to be hard to do, but communicating with Lorcana and having Lorcana being the person saying, hey, he can't be in sanctioned event, that the Jet Championship, then it's a lot easier for someone. Because for one thing, it's going to be a lot harder to do Lorcana, and also Lorcana to being like, oh no, you can't be in our event. It's a lot harder to argue that
Mhm.
it's really affecting someone.
Yeah. To back up Matt's point, um, the other cheating incident we actually talked about it on a previous episode where we talked about the I believe it was Ursula Return Set Champs, and there was a player who was called out by one of the stores, and they even had they had receipts, they had video evidence showing the player doing all this stuff, and there was a back and forth between that player, and basically was like, "Hey, it's not fair for you to call me out like this," and he supposedly, I didn't see the legal documents, but was preparing to bring a lawsuit against the people unless they took the video down. And so the owner of the store just said, "Hey, this guy's just banned from our store for life. We took down the video because we're not in the business of dealing with lawsuits and everything else, but like we want to provide a fair environment for our players to actually feel like they can compete." So, um, yeah, it's sad, but if somebody's going to cheat, you can also expect them to use other, I don't know, maybe more slimy methods to uh, punish you
Is
for
it
trying
is
to
it
punish them.
is it bad that I half expected the word that came out of your mouth was going to be scummy again?
Well, yeah, it's a very common word when it comes to this kind of behavior, but um, yeah, I mean, ultimately, right? It's a if you want to talk about psychology and stuff like that, you have to choose the high road day in and day out. It's not suddenly I just found myself being a cheater every day. It's like you knew you had moral failures before this. You just let
And
them grow.
well, it's also a pretty trope because sometimes you ride one and you got another, and then like you got used to the winning.
Yeah. No, I'm like I completely understand the the mental gymnastics you do to
Yeah,
justify your own and nobody. I think this is a good humbling moment for everyone to be like nobody goes and does anything any day that they're like this is the completely wrong thing for me to do. Like it's just very rare for somebody to continually do that. There's justifications in their head, and there's history and family, history or trauma or whatever else that lead people to make these decisions. So like, don't judge a book by its cover. It's like I get it, but ultimately there still needs to be a like consequences for the people who do these kinds of actions.
yeah. And it's just there need to be consequences, and it's hard because you don't want to like you don't want to be like super heavy with the ban hammer because but you also want to make it so that, because again, like, you could have an incident with someone that makes mistakes, or you could have like a person who, like, I know the burden person or a child who is trying, but like some of the mistakes they're making, like it that the brain is wired slightly differently,
Mm-hmm.
and it could like I have like a some audio processing stuff, so I'm constantly mispronouncing code names, and that's just how my brain is wired. And a lot of times it's out there code, but I'm actually playing a different code, and a lot of times I try to correct myself. But
Mm-hmm.
like someone could be like, "Oh, he said he's playing this, but he's playing this."
Have you had people call you out on that before? Like
Oh,
trying
not for
to.
that, no,
Okay.
no.
It's like
Uh,
hopefully most people would recognize that, but it's just.
a lot of time it's funny because for a while there, I kept when bare necessities would be prepared in my head for some reason, so I kept giving my opponents heart attacks. Look, I'm not even playing movie. Like the eye get wide, like what?
Okay, so we've talked about basically cheating in TCG on a large scale. We tried to bring it down a little bit into the local levels. What effects do you see when you see the cheating happening? How that affects the casual player, not outside the competition where there is, but the casual players where there's no prizes, they're there to have fun. How does cheating affect that environment?
One thing, it's like when the casual players try to dip their toes in or try to actually like maybe like decide to, like, you know what, I've been playing the game for a while, I'm really happy with this deck, I want to see how it does at a tournament. So when they go to the tournament for the first time and then they immediately get stomped or that's a bad experience, um and then it just makes them like just not want to play, because like people don't want to play with cheaters, like, and like if it's actually like they go to a local store and then like the local store and they get to have a bad time, they're not going to go back to those events. Like, just like we talked about cheating specifically, but a lot of it is that kind of like the toxic players in general, and like competitive players can just get toxic.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, just when you go and you have that experience with a toxic player, it just turns you away from it. And then after a while, it can potentially start getting a reputation for the game. Like, Magic the Gathering had it for a while with toxic players. Warhammer had it for a while. League of Legends, I'm pretty sure, to have a toxic player representation. And that just get people not wanting to play the game. Like, one thing I see, actually from Warhammer specifically, is that like games in general are just getting better, um, at being less toxic because players are now being more competent and understanding the games a lot better, and are able to call these toxic people out a lot more, and basically they're being like, I don't want to play with you. And so
Mm-hmm.
they're working on better to get rid of the toxic players because now they have. Because now at some point though, with the stores and stuff, you don't want to turn like customers away because you need them for money. But now that a lot of the games are getting a lot more mainstream, stores can actually now put down the foot and be like, "Hey, I'm gonna like, stop you from coming to these events. Like, I don't need your business, and you're creating a bad environment, and you're ruining it for my other customers."
Mm-hmm. So when you were talking about that there, I was just reminded of like at certain organizations and I'm thinking specifically like Meetup. I don't know if you've ever done any meetups or things like that,
Mhm.
but specifically the ones I've been to, they like are I don't know if they're forced to, but they read out the code of conduct before every meeting and they say like here's what we uphold ourselves to. It's almost like a community standards, and just to like remind people like hey before you I mean it's not like meetup for volleyball, it was like a computer science or like python programming stuff, But I just thought that was like, do we need something like that in Lorcana where it's like you don't just check the box and say yes, I read the community agreement, but like before the big tournament, it's just like someone verbally just being like, we're watching, don't do something stupid.
Wait, we're supposed to do that? Because I've hosted a bunch of meetups that I've
I
never
don't.
once done
Yeah,
that.
I don't think it is. I think it's because the one that I went to was affiliated with certain organizations, and they just want to make sure, like, you know, they're doing the cover your butt kind of thing. Like,
Yeah,
I don't want to get
and
sued because somebody came to this event and harassed somebody else.
and that's part of what when we did the tech championship, what the player meeting is. It was adjusted to address people and to cock people, and it got that stuff.
Yeah. Anyway, I just think that that might be something to like. It's a non-punishing, like, hey, let's all do this together. Like, we want to hold ourselves to a higher standard kind of way, rather than like just being like, hey, we're just increasing the punishment because it's not enough to stop people from cheating. Like,
Yeah,
there's a carrot and stick, and I think both are needed. But it would be nice if you could call people to something that's more attractive than scare them away with,
yeah.
like, hey, we're telling your employer. Like,
Like we're telling your mom,
yeah, right.
like
Your great aunt who lives in the nursing home but still has enough memory to shame you. Yeah,
what was Friday night when we were playing. We had for the audience one of our regular, it's like that 18-year-old kid. Um, I'm Facebook friends with his mom. Like he made a comment about like I'm gonna make a bunch of jokes and harass you guys, and I'm just like, I can tell your mom to come pick you up.
yeah,
like yeah, him and his his mom and I have the same social circles. Like we go to the same parties.
nice. Yeah, and Scott, to bring it back to your question, I feel like ultimately cheating forces, even if they are not the non-competitive players, it raises that barrier to entry high enough that you're going to miss out on a lot of the people that might actually enjoy competitive, but they don't want to cross that intimidation factor of like,
Mm,
hey, like these people are like, they do anything to win, quite literally. So maybe they won't cheat specifically, but they're also going to angle shoot and like try to rule shark me and do all this stuff of like, like just to make me feel bad or intimidate me or do whatever. Um, which is just sad. Uh, and ultimately, I think, unfortunately, for the player who is wanting to get into the competitive scene, the best way is to just go to your locals and then work up from there to the set champs, and then work up from there to the challenges. Just so that way you become more confident enough and you know what to call out or what to look out for, and that way you're not as affected by people who might be trying to win in these alternate methods.
yeah, the bigger thing is understanding the rules and that having confidence in yourself is the best way to deal with these players. Because when you and also to pay attention to what they're doing. Because like if they try to use a call or interact in a way that won't happen, um, then you can be like, no, hey, I know for a fact that we'll say that. Or that having the confidence that like you see them doing cooking, that to call the judge over.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I think that's the hard part too, is like calling a judge can seem intimidating. Uh, I
but
mean, Scott, you're not that intimidating, but sometimes maybe you can be. I don't know.
but
Uh,
but calling a judge is very easy. You just
yeah.
raise your hand, you say judge,
Yeah.
and then you just say like, "Hey, I did what's he doing." You don't be accused of Cody. Don't be like key cheating. Don't be like, "Hey, this is going on. I did want a clarification if this is accurate."
Right.
Well, you don't have to accuse the players to be like, "Hey, I don't." Like you'd be like, "Hey, I don't understand why this happened, or this is going on, and I don't feel like my opponent is giving me an accurate weapon. Oh, I just want a second opinion."
Yeah. Yeah. And I think some of it too, like when we talked about earlier, when you're playing at someone, if they're not saying everything, like you don't have to immediately call a judge and be like, hey, judge, he's not saying anything. You can talk to the player first and be like, hey, it really helps me if you announce what you're doing so that way I can keep track and whatever. I'm trying to announce what I'm doing. And if they say no, and you think that's something that's like like needs to be done, then you can talk to a judge or do something else. But like, I mean, ultimately, you want to try to like, if it's a very specific rules question, call a judge. But if it's like, hey, like I just want to make this gameplay experience mutually enjoyable, like you can just ask them.
Yeah, like I had an incident in Toronto where I was playing against I think they're probably in high school. Um and they wasn't really announcing what they were doing. But after a couple of questions, I'm like, "What are you doing? What did that call do?" They started, and the me that's announcing everything I'm doing. They started toward the end of the first game, starting to get into that habit.
You could try narrating it, and next time when they turn to quest, and be like, "Oh, so you're challenging my guy." They're like, "Wait, no. Okay, fine, I'm questing."
Yeah, that's one way to do it. But and then also like sometimes people like double play stuff, and that can lead to confusion. Because I've heard about judges, um, getting on people for like when they like, oh, I'll turn 2 ink, I'll play 2 1 drops. Like I've seen judges get on people for that too.
Yeah, should be one thing at a time. Resolve any things in the bag.
Yeah.
Play the next thing. Yeah.
We are coming close to ending our time for our session tonight. So, is there anything else you guys want to mention before we move on to our next feature?
Yeah, I'd say like honestly, when it comes down to it, like be the change you want to see. Like be friendly to people. Like encourage them to like if you notice that things are feeling a little toxic in your local um, at your local game store, like you could talk to the store owner and be like, hey, like I've noticed new players aren't feeling as welcome or something else is happening. Like, what can we do? Like, you don't have to go out and immediately call out the person, but like if you see something and you want to make it better, like maybe you can reach out to that new player and be like, hey, let's play a game, or just look out for the people who you think might be being taken advantage of, and don't be afraid to call out someone who is taking advantage of someone, especially if that person's you.
Yeah. Also, like the fact that like these prizes are physical cards and not actual money. Like you're gonna have the option to buy these prizes later off of the secondhand market, and like these prizes value heavily fluctuates. Like these cards might be worth a lot of money right now because they're new and they're exciting, but like in 10 years they might not be worth as much.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it's one of the things that like I think a lot of people don't realize a lot of these you have an opportunity to get down the road, or you have another tournament you can go to win some of these prizes, or also the fact that like in like a year it's not even gonna matter.
Mm-hmm.
Like I like the one into the one set championship I won, that play band that's sitting on my bookshelf. Like it's not doing anything. I do want to get to play for it at some point, but like it's not really affecting my day to day.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and one last thing. If you find yourself in the position where you feel like you need to cheat, don't. And,
Yeah,
maybe confess that to a friend or someone who you trust, or who's, whatever, and be like, "Hey, like I was about to do this, or I did do this." Like, ultimately hiding your moral like misgivings in the dark isn't going to help you overcome them. So,
and that's
find friends and
another
community.
yeah, and that's another thing too. It's attacking like why? Like why am I feeling the pressure to cheat? Do I
Mm-hmm.
really need to win this bad? Am I really desperate? Like if there's a reason to cheat, that means it's like a huge effort. Sorry, my cat not cooking over. Um, but like, yeah, if you just take a moment to step back, like, why? Like, is it gonna matter in the long run? Is it really gonna do anything for me?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Well, let's go ahead and switch gears, kind of, based on what's going to happen next. But we are going to move into our card of the week. And Mike chose this card, and I thought it was extremely appropriate for the conversation we were having today. But we are doing Scar vs. Cheater. This card comes from set 2. It is a 7 non-inkable card, 6 strength with a 5 willpower, Storyborn villain. He has the rush ability, and he also has the ability Daddy isn't here to save you. During your turn, whenever this character banishes another character in a challenge, you may ready this character. He can't quest for the rest of this turn, and he does quest for 2 lore, and the artwork comes to us from Nicholas Cole. So, Mike, you chose the card, so let's lead off with you. What do you feel about Scar?
This is, I don't know, unofficially maybe one of my white whale cards. So I like this card a lot. Having an ability to punish people who like quest all their cards away, and to you can eventually leave Scar upright. It feels like a one-sided be prepared if you catch someone off guard. And that's part of the reason why people actually started picking this up again, is because with the new card, the Pete, I don't know, do you know the subtitle of Pete? But he's the 3/3 for 3 that when you play him, opponents can't play actions until the start of your next turn.
It's like referee talking. I think everyone would call them the referee.
Yeah. And so people were afraid that people are going to play Pete in these either aggressive decks or whatever else, and you wouldn't be able to play your Be Prepared. So people were subbing in these Scar Vicious Cheaters for it. And I think it was a great idea. But out of all of the, all of the packs that I've opened, I feel like I haven't even opened one of these. The only one I bought after the set 3 Into the Inklands Championships from Sylvan Factory, just out of spite, because I was like, I didn't have this card and I wanted it.
Oh, same. It was I did not open any of these, and then it was the point where like this and like the Floodborn Fairy Godmother, I'm like, these are the only 2 cards preventing me from having one of every card in the set.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like
Now I kind of feel special because I pulled one of each of those 2 cards.
Yeah,
I have both of those cards, so
yeah. So yeah, I had to trade for this from one of my friends.
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of fun too, because when this is one of those cards that it does feel like somebody's cheating when they play it against you, because it's like, you could potentially, expect that they have this in their hand, but if you're newer to the game, or you're not at that level where you're thinking about what does my opponent have that could screw me over, you're just like, oh, they killed 4 of my characters with one of their cards, and none of their cards are hurt. Cool.
Yeah, this is also part of the reason why Ruby, I feel like Ruby got a lot of really good removal cards very early. And I think that part of the reason why Ruby have been concentrating very high in tournament, and a lot of the get winning tournaments have either Ruby or Teal, because those 2 cards have the best removals.
Yeah. And I mean, part of the reason, the drawback that Ruby has, just as a color identity too, though, is that it has almost no card draw, right? So it's all, anything that's paired with the engine, the draw engine or whatever else, needs to come from that other color. But yeah, Ruby's like just very, very powerful at removal, and this is a card that showcases it. It's removal on a stick, basically, or on a character.
And they call it like very strong against aggro. Like if your opponent is running like a lot of cards that only have like 1 or 2 toughness, or not that 1 or 2 strength, the card is just going to wipe out the board.
Yeah, if the aggro player doesn't win by turn 5 or 6 or whatever, and then you get this out, there's very little chance of them winning after that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Scott, what do you think about the card?
In my head, the more we talk about this, I keep relating this back to that oh so wonderful beast card that Matt has that we all hated.
Keeps up readying. I think that's Relentless, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh my god. I need to, as soon as I no longer need all those cards in my Tailcon deck, I have a green tail deck ready to go based around him.
I'm just picturing this card with the beast card, And what would happen if you ended up giving ward and evasive to these guys?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you play B turn 6, then you play Skull turn 7, and if your opponent made the mistake of turning Nebuchadnezzar sideways, you're probably going to be doing a lot. You're gonna be getting a lot of war, and then you're going to be just wiping out the opponent's side of the board.
It's like, oh, I took out all your characters and I gained 10 lore. Go.
And now in my head, I'm going,
Yeah.
and now come this Friday, I'm going to see Matt and Mike with these decks.
The Christmas tree color emerald ruby deck. Yeah.
Oh, you wasn't there, Mike.
No.
I have a Emerald Movie bounce deck I was playing.
Oh.
And people were loving it.
In all fairness, I actually did enjoy playing against that deck.
Well, because I specifically picked one other player, and I was just bouncing everything he played.
So we had Matt bouncing his cards. His cards was basically trying to get rid of our lore.
Oh, jeez, yeah.
Yeah, so
Or it was bouncing all the cards in general. So me and the other player, we'd play a card, and then by the time it got back around to us, our entire field would be empty again because every card was just getting bounced.
Yeah, so not to name names of but the other player, the one that brings the deck particularly for causing everyone to lose war.
Oh yeah.
He was playing that deck, and I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna bounce all his cards so he can't make us lose war. But it was good enough that I could also bounce everyone else's.
But just to point this out to you, Mike,
mm-hmm.
I did win that game.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I was also ended up.
It literally came down to the final move of the player before Matt to make the choice. Okay, am I going to stop Matt and let Scott win, or am I not going to stop Matt and he wins?
Also, I only had like 8. No, I had 7 cards left in my deck. Like most other players had at least half their deck still.
Oh, jeez.
That's because you were
nice.
Because the other player had like what 9 cards in his hand most of the round.
Oh yeah, I played Clarabelle.
And then you were playing Clarabelle and just keep drawing up the 9.
This is just an advertisement for why it's so much fun to play multiplayer games. Specifically, I think 3 or 4 is like the best. Like you get more than that, it gets a little long, but I think 4 players is so much fun.
Yeah, and that's the same thing with like most other games like Commander. The 4 player is by far the ideal amount for a multiplayer game.
Mm-hmm.
It was. But yeah, I had fun, and it's not just because I won, but I did have fun with that game. It was just a great game to watch and know what was going to happen and try to counter it, but at the same time enjoy the ride.
Oh yeah. Oh man. I'm sad. Yeah, I've missed like the past 2 weeks, so I'm like itching. I'm itching to play. So maybe after we stop this recording, if anyone wants to play a game, I'd be down. But
well, that's all the time we have for tonight, guys. Thanks for joining us for another adventure in the ink. And as always, adventure awaits. See you next time.